Be very, very quiet. Quiet Place, day one, takes us back to the beginning in a way that is different from the way the last movie took us back to the beginning with a flashback. And this time it's the whole ball of wax, and it's New York City. And what do we got?
So I think we're going to feel pretty differently about this movie, you and I, just based on I gleaned from your review. I've not read your review because I want to be surprised, but just gleaned from the Rotten Tomatoes nugget that perhaps you and I do not agree on this film. And this is why you've got to subscribe, because sometimes we don't agree with each other, and it's very fun. It's exciting when we have different opinions on things. And so here we are. We're trying to reach 30,000 subscribers by the end of the summer, and we're very, very close. We are like dozens of people away, scant few. So please come and be part of our We Happy Few. Come join us here at Breakfast All Day.
If we stay here, we die. I have a plan.
This is the day that the alien invasion happened in New York that brought with it the creatures that have incredible hearing. And that is their super strength. And so we see different people going about their lives in New York on that day. Chief among them is Lupita Nyong'o. She plays a young woman who is dying of cancer named Samira. And she's in hospice. And she has a therapy cat who I have many questions about, but we will get to that. Alex Wolff is the nurse who runs things and arranges this outing to the city to go see a play. And wouldn't you know it, that's the day that the aliens invade. And so it's about the scampering around and trying to survive as she is running around the city, which she clearly knows very, very well. She crosses paths with Joseph Quinn's character. His name is Eric. He is British, and he was in New York studying at law school. And they become sort of this unlikely team helping each other survive. And I really liked this in ways that were very surprising to me. This is from director Michael Sarnoski. He co-wrote the script with John Krasinski, who did the first couple of Quiet Place films. And yes, this has big action sequences. And yes, this has all the visual effects and the gnarly details of how the creatures scamper up buildings and devour people whole. And you get a sense for what that hearing is like. But really, this is more of like an indie drama about two people who are thrown together, who are totally different and have this unlikely bond. I think the indie instincts that we saw in Pig, which we loved, starring Nicolas Cage, are here on display as well. So it's a very understated film. It's a beautifully shot film. Pat Scola is his cinematographer again. He also shot Pig. He also shot We Grown Now.
Oh, interesting.
Which was poetry. And there are moments here that like look better than a summer prequel have any right to. Like I was shocked over and over again at the use of ash and shadow to convey confusion, the use of lighting to create tension. There's a shot when they go down into the subway, and they're standing at the base of these escalators, and above them, like you can see like the shadow of one of the creatures, you know, being illuminated by the lighting from up above. So over and over again, there are really inspired choices in terms of perspective, in terms of lighting. I have a lot of questions about the anthropomorphized cat, but I guess if we're going to accept alien invasion, we can go with this cat who like knows how to navigate the streets of Manhattan on its own. My mom tried to get our cats to walk on leashes when I was a kid, and like I know it can be done, you know, but I thought they worked well together. Joseph Quinn is awesome in this and has to convey a lot with his eyes and just his presence. And I like how they take turns being strong for each other, and each of them just sort of instinctively knows what the other one needs. And so I thought this was pretty well done.
Lupita Nyong'o is terrific in this, as she's terrific in everything. And again, it's the same thing with like casting Anya Taylor-Joy in Furiosa. If you're going to put somebody in a movie where there is minimal dialogue, and they have to do a lot of face and eyes and thing, like that's a great person to cast, you know. And she's absolutely like nailing this character and being a great sort of audience surrogate into this moment. Where the movie kind of didn't work for me was that the first one I thought was super effective in just the gimmick of silence or else, and it was the first time in a long time that I remember being in a movie theater where you could hear a pin drop. Like everybody
That was so cool.
was so quiet and holding their breath and stuff. And then the second one I think was a lot more effective in terms of story. Like, because the first one, it's thrilling while you're watching it, and the way you're like, wait a minute, why did they, and how come but the second one I thought was much better written and more, exciting in a lot of ways. The go-to for alien invasion movies of late has not been like rural areas, so that kind of threw it something a little different. When you put it in a city, it just kind of becomes another sort of contemporary disaster movie. And when you put it in New York City and there's clouds of dust and people are confused and running around, it's like, we're getting real 9/11 here. I was having Man of Steel flashbacks, where it's like, I don't want to see an ash covered Lupita Nyong'o stagger her way through a cloud of dust on a Manhattan street. It's just like, it just doesn't sit well with me, unfortunately.
And it's lower Manhattan because they're in Chinatown.
Yeah. So it just,
even closer.
Exactly. So the whole thing, just that already is just kind of puts a bad taste in my mouth. And then beyond that, I think the fact that she is terminally ill kind of messes with the stakes of this movie, because it's like her goal is not survival in the long term. It's much more immediate, and they do give her immediate goals to accomplish. But the whole time I kept thinking, well, I mean, you were already in hospice, so I felt a little less invested in that regard. So there are cool moments along the way, like some cool ideas that I thought that they threw in of like how to depict this. Like there's a moment where like all the power is out in Manhattan and it's nightfall and there's a thunderstorm, and so like you don't see anything, and then there's this like crack of lightning and suddenly you see the city skyline. That was cool,
and how they use the sound design of the storm as well to their benefit. I thought that was a very clever bit too.
Yes, like anything that makes a sound, whether it's like a car alarm or a fountain or whatever, like they figure out ways to use that to their benefit. There are things, I mean, I'm not mad at this movie per se. I think there's a lot of it that works, but ultimately it just kind of felt like it's getting away from what made these movies sort of special and different. Like, and they've really kind of exhausted the notion of like, okay, oh no, I stepped on a twig. Oh no, I tore my shirt. Like the oops, I made a sound thing. They've kind of really gotten to the bottom of the well on that one. So yeah, I think it's fine, but it just, I kind of feel like this franchise is a little played out at this point.
As for Lupita Nyong'o already being on the verge of death, I do think that presents some unexpected tension, because will she just give up, or will she fight, and why will she fight, and what's she fighting for? And so the fact that she is willing to put herself on the line for this total stranger, and the way that relationship evolves, because she's very reluctant to team up with him at first. She's like, go, I've got stuff to do, get out of here. And so how that develops in ways that are unexpected, but also emotionally resonant, I thought was really, really cool. So I do think her imminent death is used effectively.
Okay.
I did. Also, speaking of the fact that it has 9/11 imagery, it also seems to be taking place in the early 2000s, because she's got an iPod.
Right. Well,
she's looking for songs in an iPod. You hear the click, 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 which, puts it about 20 years ago.
The first movie is set 2 years in, and the first movie came out in 2018.
The first movie came out in 2018. Yes.
Yeah. So I think it's supposed to be 2016, and she just has an outdated thing, because she's, I guess when you're terminal, you're not necessarily keeping up with all of the latest gadgets. I don't know. Like that, there's a lot of, we don't get a ton of backstory about like how long she's been sick and, all that kind of thing. But like, yeah, there are definitely some moments where like a very loud thing happens and the aliens don't come, and then a little tiny sound happens and vroom, I'm like, okay, can we make up our mind here? So yes, I think Sarnoski brings some craft to this, more than one would expect from a threequel, absolutely. And at one point Jeff Nichols was going to make this, and then they couldn't agree on what it was going to be, and so he went off and did The Bike Riders instead.
Interesting.
And this is one of those movies, and I don't follow this stuff. I don't hang on to like production news. Several people asked me before I saw it, "Ooh, can you tell where the reshoots happened?" I'm like, no.
I never knew there were reshoots. Yeah.
So I guess that's a good thing. So yeah, I'm just kind of, I'm not mad at this movie. I'm just not super into it.
What's your number then?
5.5.
Wow. Okay. I'm going to say like a 7.6. So this was pretty well done. I had some logic questions. Like, how do they know to be quiet? They know pretty quickly to be quiet. How do they know that?
And also cats, given the fact that cats will just do whatever the fuck they want, whenever they want, seems to be like a dodgy accomplice to have in an action movie like this.
The cat's very smart, Alonso.
Well, but then when the guy chases the cat, I'm like, dude, just let the cat's gonna come back or not come back, but you chasing after it is a big mistake.
Anyway, it's pretty good, I thought. We don't agree. Quiet Place Day One. Let us know if you see it.